What's going on, guys? This is Mike, the Detroit Borg, with a look at the Asus ePad Transformer Prime. Currently the top-of-the-line Android tablet available. This has a quad-core processor, which is a first in the tablet segment. I'm sure more will come very soon, but right now this is a quad-core Tegra 3 processor, Cortex A9 processor, with a fifth core, which runs at 500 megahertz, and the quad-core runs at 1.3 gigahertz. The idea is that the fifth core runs in low power mode, which conserves battery life. So in order to get 12 hours of battery life, we have that fifth core to run on lower power processes, which is great. We also have a high power GPU for gaming. This is a 10.1 inch LCD display, not just any LCD. This is a Super IPS LCD Plus display, which is LED backlit and covered in Corning Gorilla Glass for scratch resistance and shatter resistance. So this is a very high quality display. It has a resolution of 1280 by 800 or WXVGA. Definitely one of its highlighting features. Certainly not a high resolution display at 10.1 inches, but it's definitely one of the better ones in the tablet segment. Another feature here supplied by Asus is the keyboard dock, which is sold separately for $160. I do have this on order, and I will review that at a later date, but this is one compelling reason to buy the Asus Transformer Prime over any other tablet device, largely because this is meant to work with the Asus Transformer Prime. It folds up very nice and neatly. Really turns it into a laptop, not just a tablet. So if you kind of want an ultrabook or something like the MacBook Air, this is a solution to look at. So on the side, we don't have a whole lot here. We just have ePad Transformer Prime. On this side, we have some other labeling here, which indicates some other features we have, including HDMI. So this does have an HDMI port to output to a television. Again, the NVIDIA Tegra processor built in. Asus, not much here either. And not much here either. So on the back, we also have a lot of information here, which I don't really want to share because it has my serial. So we're just going to crack into it and take a look. So let's just lift up the lid. And there it is. So here we have our very reflective tablet with a little pull tab here to lift it out of its container. We're going to set this aside and take a look in just a minute. ePad Transformer Prime. So it's just, I guess, a little note to us. Thank you for purchasing the ePad. Another little packet here. That is Asus's logo, inspiring innovation, persistent perfection. So again, a little, I guess, booklet here, not a whole lot here, some warranty information. And of course we have a little basic user manual, which gives you an idea of what the ports do, what accessories you have, that sort of thing. Now they also give us a little cleaning cloth here to clean the screen and the back panel, and it's indicating on how to clean your back panel because it's sort of a milled metal panel. It indicates, I guess, you should clean it in a circular fashion with the grain of the metal. Now below that we have our cables, including a proprietary 40-pin dock connector. This is for connecting and charging your Asus Transformer Prime to a computer or to the wall adapter. Of course, the other end is just a standard USB connector. Here we have the USB power adapter, which is wrapped in plastic. I assume this means it's very shiny plastic, which they're trying to protect. Let's peel that off. So there we go, we have a standard USB adapter. Again, you connect your USB cable here to charge it with the Asus logo just above it. We also have a removable power socket here, so you can pop this off. It allows you to connect other adapters. So for example, if you travel to Europe, the UK, other parts of the world, you can add your own adapter. Now getting back to the tablet itself, we can see that the label actually indicates exactly what all the buttons and ports do, which is quite nice. We'll take a look at that once we get it off. But we also have a label down here which highlights some of its major features. So we have our quad-core Tegra 3 processor. It's only 8.3 millimeters thick and only 586 grams. We have our Super IPS Plus panel with a viewing angle of 170 degrees, which is also super bright, so it's good for viewing in sunlight. We also have a rear-facing 8-megapixel camera for recording in 1080p. It also has a wide aperture, so it's good for low-light photography. It's also backlit, so it's a good quality camera. It's actually, it has similar specs to cameras like the iPhone 4S. We do have the Sonic Master, which is Asus's sort of proprietary way of processing audio. So it has a high quality speaker, which is stereo and gives you good sound quality out of a tablet. And of course we have reference to the keyboard dock, which is optional, and this is upgradable to Android 4.0. The wrapper just peels off like an envelope, should slide right out. Now taking a look around, as you can see, we have this metal back panel which is milled in this circular pattern with the Asus logo sort of stuck on the back. As you can see up here we have our 8.2 megapixel auto-focusing camera, which is also backlit. So it's very similar to the iPhone 4S in terms of its specs. It has a wide aperture, I think is a f-stop 2.5 or something along those lines. Up here we have a little microphone. On the left side we have our 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Down here we have our speaker grill. Again, this has that Sonic Master stereo sound built into it, so it actually looks very similar to the speaker grill on the iPad 2. Toward the bottom where our dock connector is, we have these slots here which are covered right now. This is for the keyboard dock, which you will remove these once you get your keyboard dock. And we have our, looks like our 40-pin dock connector right here. You don't have to keep this on there, but that helps to protect it. So that's where you will connect your 40-pin connector for charging and syncing. Now on the right side we have a little pinhole here for resetting the device, as well as a micro SD card slot which currently has a color matching dummy in there. It is spring-loaded so you can pop it out. We also have a micro HDMI connector for connecting to a high-def television. So this allows you to play back 1080p content to your television. They do not include a micro HDMI connector, so you have to supply that separately. We have our volume rocker here, and we have our sleep wake button or power button up here. Alright, let's go ahead and power this up for the first time, so I'm just going to hold that power button for a few seconds. And it does have a vibration motor in here, so I just felt it vibrate. Alright, so we're just going to walk through our setup screen. So click next on our keyboard. We're just going to connect to my Wi-Fi network. So we're going to click next. So we're going to activate location services, click next. And we're going to use network provided time. We're not going to set our own time here. And we're going to sign in with my Google account. So now I have some of my restore options here, so I can restore data from my Google account, which I would like to do. And I'm going to keep this device synced to my Google account. So right now it's restoring data from my Google account. I should note that this strobing here is actually the fault of the camera, not the pad itself. So there we go, that's our home screen. Alrighty guys, so it's been about a week since I did that unboxing video of the Asus Transformer Prime, and now we can take a look around the device to see how it works. So you can see this is the lock screen here, which I'm toggling with this button right above the Asus logo. And we have our little lock slider here, so we can slide left to activate the camera or slide right to bring us to the home screen. So let's do that and we can take a look around. So one of the great things we have here is Ice Cream Sandwich. So this did update to Ice Cream Sandwich as soon as I activated it. In fact, it downloaded in the background, and you can see all your updates down here in the notification tray, and it installed within half an hour of activating the device. So it went pretty quickly. So what we have here is Asus's flavor of Android, which includes these swipeable home screens. So if we swipe left and right, we have about 5 of them, and there are these detents up here which indicate which home screen you're on. So this is my main home screen here, which is the default home screen. This is what you'll see when you unlock the device for the first time, and you see all the apps that also came with it. So on the home screen here we have this weather widget here, which you can set up by tapping. So if we tap to it, brings us right to the weather widget and the settings. So we're going to click save. We also have our email here. Again, brings us to our email. Don't mind the spam. We also have our app launcher up here, which brings us to all of our apps, and from here we can drag and drop apps to the home screen. So for example, if we want Google+, we just hold it and drop it to this home screen. So we can drop it anywhere we want, or we can pick another home screen. So let's add all my social apps. And we're going to do, okay, we have Facebook and we want Twitter. So there we go, we have all my social apps on the home screen. Now, what we can also do here, thanks to Ice Cream Sandwich, is we can put these into a folder. So if we just hold them, we just drag them together, and now they're in their own folder. So if we tap that, we have a folder and we can name it. So let's do social. Done. Now that wasn't the native keyboard. That is actually a secondary keyboard or a third-party keyboard that I installed. Let me switch back to the native keyboard so you can take a look at that, and that'll give me an opportunity to explore this part of the device. So down here we have all of our notifications. So in fact you can see some of our notifications pending here, including Gmail notifications, Messenger notifications, update notifications, and we also have a widget up here which allows us to control other functions which are also unique to the device. So here we can turn on performance mode, which allows the tablet to use all of its hardware to give you the best performance and therefore draining more of your battery. Or you can go onto balance mode, which will balance, I guess, performance versus battery conservation. Or you can go to power saving mode, which will do the best to wind down the hardware and make sure it's running as efficiently as possible, although it may sacrifice overall performance. We also have other widgets here, which are auto rotation, so that locks the rotation. We have our Wi-Fi. We can turn that on and off. Let's turn it back on. And we also have our Bluetooth toggle, which we can turn on and off. We also have our battery indicator here, which says we're at 89% currently. We also have which network I'm attached to. And if we go to settings, that brings us to our full settings panel. So I want to go back to my default keyboard here. So we're going to switch to language and input and select default. And we're going to go to Asus English US keyboard and we're good to go. So let's go home. And if we go to browser, brings us to our browser. We're going to go to our keyboard and you can see that's the standard keyboard. Now, of course, this does work in landscape or portrait mode. So there you go. That's the portrait version. Now, another feature unique to the Asus Transformer Prime is this IPS mode slider, which is basically a brightness slider that allows you to adjust the brightness of the screen pretty easily. But we also have something called IPS Plus and Auto Mode. So if we go to Auto Mode, this will automatically adjust the brightness of the screen according to the ambient light conditions. So it does have an ambient light sensor. So we turn that off, it goes back to where we last had it. Now we also have IPS Plus mode, which is ideal for calibrating your screen for outdoor conditions. So basically what it does, it darkens the contrast so that the light, text, or images or video pop out so they're brighter in oversaturated daylight environments. And if you click auto, it will automatically adjust the brightness of the screen according to the lighting conditions outside. So kind of works together. So if you click that off, it goes back to where you had it, or you can certainly adjust it manually. There you go. Now, of course, all Android devices have these standard controllers here for back, home, and menu. So if we tap menu, this will actually bring up all our background processes. So basically, this is our app launcher. So these are all the things I've loaded previously. Now, if I want to close any of these background processes, just swipe right, and it closes them for us. But if I want to jump to them, just tap them, and it brings us right to that app. So of course, if you're in the app, you can also tap that menu key again to jump to another app. So if we want to go to Google+, there you go. Each app also has its specific menu controls here. So these, you see a menu item appear down here, which gives us some other settings. So we have account, settings, and my profile. But if we go to Google+, you'll see that that has changed. It's now up here. So our menu controls are up here. So again, these are all our settings. So settings, send feedback, sign out, privacy, terms of service, etc. So things tend to jump around depending on what app you're using. I can also change what's in the dock item here. So I have Supernote here, which I'm probably not going to use. So let's go back to the home screen, grab that, and swipe that up to the remove button up here, and it's gone. So I can also modify what I want here. So let's say I want my social apps down in the system tray or dock tray. Drop that and we're good to go. So we also have a second home screen here which Asus has loaded with other apps, including an Office suite. So this is Polaris Office. So if you want some Office software directly on your device, here you go. And you can see it actually gives us the file tree here. So we have access to our file manager. Let's go back. We have My Library, which again is books loaded by Asus onto this device. Let's go back, or home. We also have My Net. This has DLNA support, so this allows you to broadcast like AirPlay to other devices. So you can broadcast music, videos, etc. We also have My Cloud, which is Asus's cloud solution. So here you can upload content to their cloud storage. You can also go to your desktop on your computer and access your content there. And of course we have other things like Maps, Places, File Manager. So here this brings us to our File Manager to take a look at exactly where everything is located on our device, including pictures. So we can see all of our pictures directly on the device. So it looks like we have a lot of sample pictures here. We also have a direct shortcut to settings. And then we have Tegra Zone Gaming, which is a gaming demo of the Tegra processor. Now on the second home screen, you'll see a widget that Asus installs automatically on here, which is something like Flipboard. Basically, it aggregates all your major content into this quick viewer onto the home screen. So we have My Zine, which basically is your photo gallery. So any photos you take with a device will load here. Right now, this is actually not, I didn't take this photo. This is photos that were loaded by Asus. We also have here my music player. So you can see Set Fire to the Rain by Adele was the last thing I listened to. Or you have your web browser here. So the last thing I looked at here looks like Asus's website. And we also have our emails here. So we have 6 emails here. I have 0 events on my calendar. I have 2 books to read, and I have my weather conditions here. So if we tap on any of these, it brings us right to those apps. So of course it launches our web browser. So if we zoom out, you'll see the whole web browser. Let's go back home. Go to Google Music. Click play. Go home and continue listening. Or if we want to pause that, we bring up our controller here, our widget down here. It pauses our music. Play. Skip next. Pause. There you go. And we can go to our email, which is probably full of spam. And indeed it is. So you get the idea here. So it's a nice little portal for accessing your most often used content. Now in the upper left corner we have Google or the microphone. So if we tap Google, that'll bring us to a search page right onto the home screen. So you can search either the web or you can search your device. So on the left is the web, on the right is your device. So you can see our music here, which you can scroll through, emails, everything. Now let's do a voice search. So we have this little microphone here. Apple. That brings us, of course, right to Google's search page, so we can tap Apple. Brings us right to Apple's main page. Now we also have the microphone icon here, so we can do voice searching right from the home screen, or we can do voice actions, which are Siri-like functions. So for example, send an email to Michael. Tell him I'll be finished with this video tonight, period. Alright, so it knows that when I spoke, it can distinguish between telling that I want to send an email to Michael, although it doesn't have Michael in my address book. But it did identify exactly what part of what I said was the body of the text, so it separated it out and put it in the body of the email. So all I have to do is get Mike in my address book and I'll be set to go. So that's one feature of voice actions, which is quite nice because you do not have this feature on the iPad 2 at the moment. Now you can also do things like, where is the nearest Apple store? So there it goes. It found the nearest Apple store and gives me directions on how to get there. Now let's take a look at the camera app, which is pretty full featured. So we launched the camera app, which we can do from the lock screen or the home screen. And here we have 3 modes here. We have our camera mode, our video mode, and our panorama mode. So first take a look at the camera. So here we have our controllers right here. So we have a zoom slider, which allows you to zoom in on the picture, which again, of course, is digital zoom. It's not optical zoom. And we also have tap to focus or tap to expose. So you can see it's pretty quick. So you just tap areas of the scene and it will focus and expose properly for you. And we can also go to settings, and we have other settings here. So we can do our flash mode. So we have auto on or off. So let's turn it on for the purpose of this demo so we can see how it looks. We also have white balance, so we can do auto, incandescent, daylight, fluorescent, or cloudy. We're going to stick to auto. We can also do exposure level, so we can adjust the exposure here. So if it's too bright, we can downgrade it, which is quite nice. I actually really like that. Now we also have scene mode here, which allows us to select a number of pre-programmed settings for certain types of photographs we're taking. So if we do a portrait, that's the portrait mode, so it adjusts levels for portrait, landscape, night, snow, sunset, so it's more saturated, indoors, backlight, so you can see the foreground subject is brighter and the background subject is dimmer, and vivid. Alright, so let's go ahead and start snapping photos here. This is our shutter release controller here, and I do have my flash set to on. So if we tap any part of the scene, you can see it flashes the flash to adjust the controls. Click shutter release, snaps the photo and fires the flash, and you can see it appears up here. So we tap, brings us right to it. So you can see you have lots of sharing options here, or you can go right to your gallery. So in our video mode, again, we have a 16:9 screen capable of recording at 1080p. And again, we have our zoom slider here. And then we have more options here. So we have our lighting, torch mode on. So that basically turns on our flash. So right now our flash is turned on. In fact, if we look at it, you can see it's nice and bright. Again, auto white balance, incandescent, daylight, fluorescent, or cloudy. Now we also have effects. Now this does have face detection, so if you have a face in the shot, you can manipulate it with big eyes, big mouth, small eyes, big nose, etc. And we also have background effects, which will essentially replace the backdrop of your scene with another image. So if we tap any of them, so let's go in space. So basically what it wants us to do is to remove any object we don't want in the scene out of the scene. So if it's you, you just step out of the way for a moment and then you step back in. So right now we have the Android logo, looks like it's floating in space. Now if we place something else in front of it, you can see it sort of removes the background and replaces it with the image. It's not quite that successful, but you get the idea. So again, if you remove the object, there you go. Now another neat feature here is time-lapse. So if you want a time-lapse sequence of 1 frame per second, 1 frame per 1.5 seconds, or 1 frame every 60 seconds, you basically set it to this interval, click record, and it will start recording in that mode. So it's a pretty neat effect. So when you play it back, you have a time-lapse segment. And you can also select your recording quality, so full HD at 1080p, HD at 720p, or SD at 480p. And when you're ready to record your video, just tap the record button. And you can see you can still tap to focus or expose. And you can also zoom in. So when you're done, click stop. Click play. And you can see you can still tap to focus or expose. And we also have a front-facing camera here, which we can toggle to right here on this controller. This works in either video or photo mode. Now you do not have tap to autofocus here, and you don't have tap to expose either, but you do have zoom, so you can zoom in. We also have some other controllers here, including those auto or those effects controllers. I guess they're not available in the camera mode, so let's go to video mode. So if we go to the effects, we can start playing around with that. So we can do big eyes, so hopefully it sees my eyes. Yep, there they are. So again, that's facial recognition, big mouth. Alright, small eyes. Yeah, that's creepy. And let's do another one. Let's do squeeze. That's pretty awesome. Alright, that's enough for that. Now, it's also worth pointing out that this camera is capable of recording at 480p, which is certainly better than VGA, which is what the iPad and the iPhone and the iPod Touch FaceTime cameras record at. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with the Asus Transformer Prime. I think this is the Android tablet to get right now. As an iPad 2 user, this is actually very similar to using an iPad 2. It has a very similar design and form factor, so we have this very thin, lightweight design that's all metal. So it has a very high quality feel to it, but you get a lot of features you don't have on the iPad 2, such as a full 8 megapixel camera with autofocus and a flash, a higher quality front-facing camera, as well as expandable storage and HDMI out port, that sort of thing. You do have a slightly higher quality screen, so the pixel density on this is 150 versus 132 on the iPad 2. But overall, Ice Cream Sandwich does have some performance issues despite the heavy-duty processor inside the Transformer Prime. Still doesn't quite catch up to iOS 5 in terms of how smoothly it operates. So we'll explain more in a future video, so stay tuned for that. We're going to do a full comparison of this versus the iPad 2. So for now, that's going to do it for me. Thanks for watching, guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.